A gender reveal takes about 5 minutes. Somebody says a color, everyone claps, then there's cake. You'd think there is nothing in that worth getting angry about. You'd be wrong. Today we're counting down the most absurd complaints real people made at a gender reveal. Every single one came out of a grown adult's mouth. 1. Harrison's complaint, delivered to a family that never invited him, was that their balloons flew wrong. He'd rolled into his cousin's party with a cinema drone and a whole plan for the footage. But pink balloons bob around however they want, and his tracking software couldn't hold a clean orbit shot on anything that unpredictable. Sunday, gone. Then came the invoice conversation. He wanted the parents to cover the wear on his drone motors, since nobody in that yard had bothered to supply professional-grade targets. 2. A police car got dispatched to investigate an earthquake in a quiet neighborhood. What the officers found was a lawn covered in blue paper and a confetti cannon that had gone off a few minutes earlier. The woman who called it in stood her ground. She pressed them to write the couple up for what she described as an attack on her nerves, then got to the part she really cared about. The bang had startled her into dropping her organic smoothie. $14, and she wanted the expectant parents to cover it, plus something for the distress of the mess. 3. Penelope pulled the mother-to-be aside at her own Taco About a Baby reveal to inform her the theme was too aggressive for a girl. Tacos read masculine. A daughter deserved an entrance with grace to it, a tea party, something in that direction. Then she got to the salsa. All that heat was beaming the wrong energy straight at the womb, and the festive noise would leave the girl loud for life. Said out loud to a pregnant woman at her own party. 4. White clothes only. That was the request on Samantha's invitation, because she wanted the photos to look crisp. It held beautifully until the blue powder cannons fired and repainted every guest in the yard. One of them came after her for money. $300, silk blouse, ruined. Her legal theory was that the invitation should have carried a warning that she'd be walking into a cloud of dye. And she said the grief of losing that shirt outweighed anything she felt about the baby news. 5. Somewhere out there is a woman still mourning a niece who was never born. Her brother's wife had a boy. The news broke at a party, and the sister-in-law's complaint was that she found out standing in a crowd like everyone else. What she wanted was a private phone call, 24 hours ahead, so she'd have time to steady herself before the announcement. She called the public version an intrusion on her grieving process, the grief being that she'd been counting on a niece to take shopping. 6. Meredith's requested remedy was a written apology, read out loud, directly at her stomach. The offense? The pink smoke bomb smelled like burning chemicals instead of the strawberry scent nobody had ever promised her. She's expecting too, and by her account, that smell had permanently stained her baby's very first impression of its future cousin. A fetus, forming opinions about a cousin it has never met, ruined by a smoke bomb. She put the whole thing to the hostess in writing. 7. Picture a grown man locked in a party bathroom, working dish soap into his hair and shouting through the door that the host had wrecked his head. That's Logan. He'd gone platinum blonde days earlier, $400 of it, and the blue powder cannon caught him full in the face. He was certain the dust had settled in for good, a permanent murky green. He did emerge for the cake cutting, though not for cake. He came out to ask the expectant father to Venmo him for the salon visit it would take to fix it. 8. The sharks were the real grievance. A couple ran their beach reveal by sending a surfboard into the water. It let go a cloud of pink dye, and the tide turned rosy for a while. A guy riding waves nearby paddled straight over to tell them what they'd done. First, the pink was chipping away at how manly he looked out there. Second, and this is the part that seemed to hurt most, the colored foam had thrown off the local sharks, so the water had gone safe. Safe and dull, and he held a baby announcement responsible. 9. The group text went out after everyone had already gone home. Brenda's issue was the appetizer table, buffalo wings and jalapeno poppers at a party announcing a girl. It should have been light, delicate, pink. Macarons, shrimp cocktail, something that doesn't burn. Hot orange food, she wrote, had thrown off her own digestive system's expectations about the kind of person this child would become. Then she asked for a partial refund on the gift she'd brought, since the catering didn't match the color of the news. Her stomach, predicting a personality, off a chicken wing. 10. The bakery picked up the phone and got a warning about a child who hasn't been born yet. A grandmother-to-be had bitten into the reveal cake, found it dry, and read that as a sign. Her grandson would be dull, flat company, the kind of man people avoid getting seated next to at dinner. A properly moist sponge, she was certain, would have locked in a livelier soul, so the baker had done real damage here. She wanted a dozen cupcakes, free, to make up for the distress. 11. One guest's parting advice to the expectant couple. For the next baby, both of you wear beige, so nobody could crack it early. His problem with this reveal was the father's blue tie, which in his mind gave the whole thing away before it started. He said so to anyone standing near him. The suspense was dead, the afternoon was wasted, and he'd sat through an ending he already knew. In his head, this was a show, and these two had leaked the finale. 12. A restraining order against streamers. That's what one woman asked the police for after the reveal party next door fired a small cannon full of pink paper into the air. Noise never came into it. Her worry was that her sons had watched Pink get celebrated and that the association would quietly nudge them toward things she'd rather they didn't like. She wanted her household's old-fashioned values legally shielded from a neighbor's backyard. How does an officer take that report with a straight face? 13. The centerpiece was a wall of donuts, hundreds of them, half filled with blue cream and half with pink, at an upscale party in California. One guest stood in front of it and told the hostess she felt discriminated against. She does keto. Nothing on that table was sugar-free and color-coded, so she stood there watching everyone else celebrate while her blood sugar stayed exactly where it was. Her suggestion for next time? Bacon dyed blue, or hard-boiled eggs stained pink, for the guests who care about their health. 14. Greg walked up to the pregnant woman at her own party and told her that her cheap helium had cost him a viral video. The reveal used a classic balloon box, and the balloons rose at the speed balloons rise. Too slow for the slow-motion clip he'd already framed in his head for TikTok. He spent the rest of the evening parked in a corner, sulking about views he'd never get, all because somebody bought a balloon kit at a party store without consulting him. 15. The reveal was a balloon and a pin. Pink everywhere. Everyone cheers, done. And one guest sat there waiting for more, then actually asked whether there was a second act coming. In his head, he'd paid $40 for that gift. $40 should buy a skydiver, or something that blows up, or at minimum a clip worth putting online. He'd shown up to be entertained. He went home feeling like he'd been overcharged for somebody else's good news. 16. The cat needed a therapist. That was one of the two claims a neighbor brought to police after a couple hired a helicopter to drop blue rose petals over their house for the big moment. The rotors, she said, thumped so hard the animal went into a full panic attack. Her second claim involved the pool. 3 petals landed in it. 3. She called the blue dye a biological hazard and wanted the fire department out there to flush her whole filtration system. 17. Arizona. Luxury pool, blue bath bombs tossed in for the big moment. The chlorine got hold of the dye and turned the water a shade the pool guy described as something violent happening to a Smurf. He tripled his cleaning fee. The formal complaint he filed wasn't about the extra hours. He wanted on record that the color itself was an insult to him as a professional. A man who spends his days pulling leaves out of other people's water, offended by a shade of blue. 18. An hour on her makeup, therefore the announcement was hers to publish. That was one guest's actual reasoning after the hosts asked everyone to hold off posting for 2 hours. She said her followers were waiting, and the delay was eating her engagement. Then she threatened to walk out over it. That's a person in your kitchen claiming publishing rights to your unborn child, offended that you won't sign them over. 19. A golf ball split open on the tee and threw up a cloud of pink, which is a fun way to announce a daughter. One club member took it to management, and his grievance skipped past the mess and went straight to the color. Pink had no business on a course with this kind of standing. He said catching sight of it wrecked his concentration by the time he reached the 18th. The remedy he wanted was money off his membership fees. 20. A woman who wasn't even at the party stood at her fence, watched a white poodle get walked around in bright pink, and went inside to call animal control. Her report said the dog appeared humiliated. The dye, she argued, had stripped the animal of the dignity it was born with, something close to stealing its identity. She also floated the idea that the poodle might need counseling to process going from a family pet to a decoration with legs. It was vegetable dye. It washes out. 21. Gilbert didn't estimate the noise. He measured it. 3 decibels over the city limit, he told the police, which is apparently what a gender reveal balloon does when somebody pops it a few yards down the street. Then he laid out his damages. That crack was sharp enough to collapse his artisanal sourdough starter on the kitchen counter and kill a full week of fermentation. He came after the couple for the price of the premium flour and the labor he'd sunk into it. Over bread. 22. Beatrice's emotional support chihuahua sat 3 houses away when the crowd shouted, "It's a boy," and she swears the dog has not been right since. Not startled, traumatized. Her explanation reaches back past this life entirely. The cheering woke up something the dog carries from a previous existence as a cat in a loud household. What she wanted from the expectant parents was money for a session with a pet psychic to wash the blue energy back out of the animal's aura. 23. A live violinist. That's what one guest thought a 3-minute gender announcement called for, and the couple had gone with a pop song everyone knows instead. She brought this to the hostess at a high-end party in New York. Nothing written for the occasion, nothing orchestral, so the moment landed flat and budget in her ears. Then she went further. Parents who won't commission music for this probably aren't all that invested in the kid's future either. She said that to a pregnant woman's face. 24. He asked to be reimbursed for gas. Silas had driven out to a casual backyard reveal with $5,000 of camera gear nobody had asked him to bring, and the blue smoke came out thicker than he'd planned for. Far too dense in his assessment. The clouds swallowed the mother's face at the exact second that mattered, leaving him without one frame worth posting to his professional Instagram. So he raised it with the parents. No usable shot, no reason he should eat the cost of the drive. 25. The couple hired a live painter for the reveal, which is a nice touch until one guest gets close to the canvas. Primary blue, not cerulean. He walked over to the parents to explain that a shade like that points to a kid who ends up in middle management, not one with any art in him. Then he spent the rest of the night circling the party, quietly marking down 2 people who had done nothing to him except pick the wrong blue. 26. The reveal and the baby shower were the same event, and Desmond considered that a setup. He told the host as much. Buying a present before you know what you're buying for is unfair in his view, so he'd gone safe with a set of gray onesies. Then the pink went up and he decided gray was now beneath the child. So he asked the mother to hand the onesies back so he could take them to the store himself and come back with something properly pink. 27. 7 minutes. That's how long the blue smoke sat over Charlene's driveway. and it was enough to get formal paperwork filed with the Homeowners Association. Her complaint stated that the tint made her silver Lexus look cheap and somehow less American for that entire stretch. The remedy she wanted: the expectant parents pay for a full professional detailing. In her view, the airborne particles had gotten into the paint and wrecked the car's aura. 28. Navy blue was the shade, and Diane treated it like a life sentence. She got the pregnant mother alone and laid it out. Navy is what corporations put people in. A boy raised under that color feels the pull toward banking, long hours, a permanent knot in the stomach. Picking something that looks like a suit, she said, takes a kid's innocence early. Her fix was a do-over in a light, playful sky blue, while there was still time to save his creative side. 29. Blue or pink? That was the dress code, one color per guess. Felicia showed up in neon yellow and had her defense ready. Being handed two options was a cage, she said, and neither shade worked with her skin anyway. Then she spent the afternoon working the room, calling the dress code a form of bullying and describing how left out she felt. All of it because she wasn't willing to look drained in photos for a moment that lasted 3 seconds. 30. She wanted them to go out, buy another smoke canister, and stage the entire moment a second time. That was the demand from a guest who turned up 2 hours after the reveal had already happened, missed all of it, and realized she had nothing for her Instagram story. The parents declined, which seems fair to me. So she started telling people the couple had treated her with hostility, then left a negative review of their house in a local community group. Not the party, the house. 31. Honey and lavender. Hibiscus, maybe. That's the flavor tier Victor believes a newborn girl rates, and he laid it out in an email to the hosts the day after the party. What they'd actually served was a vanilla sheet cake with pink frosting. Plain sponge like that, he wrote, disrespects a set of taste buds that hasn't even formed yet. It also told him these two have no plans to raise the kid around anything refined. He calls himself a foodie, and he's out here filing reviews on behalf of a fetus. 32. Ribbons on a tree lead to architectural anarchy. Beverly put that in writing on official HOA paperwork in her capacity as the person who guards this street. The couple had tied blue ones around the oak in their own front yard to mark the news. Beverly fined them for decorations nobody approved, then tacked on a second violation, since sky blue falls outside the neighborhood's earth tone range. Her deadline was 20 minutes. Miss it and a tree service comes out. Not for the ribbons, for the branch. 33. The bakery in Ohio was asked to issue a public apology to a womb. The request arrived as 2 handwritten pages from a grandmother, fresh off her own daughter's reveal. The filling in that cake was pink. Wrong pink, though. Too strawberry, drifting into magenta, when the moment obviously called for the soft, classic version. A shade like that, she wrote, turns out a girl who's loud and hard to handle. She took the bakery's color choice as a swipe at her entire family line. 34. A blue cloud went up at a park reveal, and one guest started loudly demanding a full ingredient list for the canister. Cornstarch is the answer, and cornstarch is her declared enemy, based on a sensitivity she diagnosed herself. She'd caught the edge of the cloud, and her skin, she said, went straight to itching. The bigger loss was the spray tan underneath. Organic, expensive, and now dusted blue. She wanted to know why nobody had picked a gentler, more natural way to announce a boy. 35. Clara has a rule, and she put it in writing to a pregnant couple. If you can't afford a venue with air conditioning, you shouldn't be throwing parties at all. She'd been to theirs. 30 guests packed into a house built for a dozen. No air moving. Everyone pressed against a stranger's shoulder. She sweated through her dress standing there. So she went home, dug out the dry cleaning receipt, and mailed the expectant parents a bill for it. Not a hint. An itemized invoice. 36. There was no third color, and one relative made that the story of the night. Blue or pink, pick a side. She wanted to know where the option was for a baby who hasn't decided anything yet. All evening she worked the room. Locking a kid into a color before there's a heartbeat, she explained, caps everything that child might have become. Then she left. The cookies had blue frosting. Blue frosting is the patriarchy, and she wasn't staying in a room that hostile. 37. Blue fireworks, one guest explained, send the wrong message to the stars. She checked the sky that morning. The moon was sitting in a feminine sign, so a boy made no sense to her. This child arrived wired for soft, moonlit energy, and his parents were already painting over it. She raised all of this with people who had come for cake. The birth chart worried her most. Fireworks that blue, she said, might have bent it out of shape for life. 38. One guest's fix for the weather was that the couple should have hired a professional cloud seeding company. That's the outfit you pay to go up and change the sky. It drizzled in Seattle, which happens roughly always, and the clouds went flat gray right as the blue smoke came out. Her photos looked like dishwater. She brought that to the hostess as a real grievance, because a bright backdrop for her feed was apparently part of the deal she thought she'd signed. 39. A woman worked out that these parents aren't ready to raise a child, and her evidence was a keychain. Silver, one per guest, that was the whole party favor at a reveal thrown by people with real money. She told the hostess it fell short. Then she carried the theory around the room. Anyone who cuts corners on a gift bag, she informed the other guests, is telling you exactly how they'll handle an actual kid. 40. 60 people held their breath at once, and Frank, 3 doors down, says the pressure shift gave him a headache. That's in the report. He called the police on a gender reveal, and the volume was never the issue. What got him came after the pink glitter dropped. The whole crowd gasped, then went dead silent. That hole in the air, he told officers, pulled him out of his nap. There is no sound level on earth that keeps Frank happy. 41. Poodles would have been the correct choice, according to Aunt Martha, who phoned a breeder to tell him so. The reveal used golden retriever puppies in pink bandanas, which is about as sweet as this whole tradition gets. Martha found the flaw. Those floppy ears read too rough for a feminine moment. The party now had a tomboy tilt to it, in her assessment, and she wanted the man who bred the dogs to know that. 42. Do the whole party over next weekend. That was a serious request from one guest after the smoke bomb coughed out a cloudy grape color that answered nothing at all. The yard laughed. The parents went red. This woman went hunting for the hosts. A color that unclear, she said, scrambled her head completely. Until she saw a clean pink or a clean blue, she couldn't form any bond with the baby. What she was really after was a second afternoon of free food and drinks. 43. One guest priced his attendance at an open bar, plus a steak dinner. That's what he told the parents he was owed at their reveal in a Florida suburb. The party ran at 3 on a Tuesday afternoon, so half the room burned vacation hours to be there. Losing paid time for 5 minutes of colored smoke, in his view, puts the hosts on the hook. He planned to leave that yard fed and slightly drunk. Nobody else raised it, just him. 44. 40 minutes on the line with emergency services, all over a party stunt. A couple had booked a professional skydiver to come down into a nearby field, trailing blue smoke behind him. A woman watching from her yard read that trail as an aircraft going down and started dialing. Finding out it was a baby announcement didn't settle her. She filed with the aviation authority, saying the smoke came too close to a real distress signal. Then she asked that the parents be billed for every public resource her own panic had burned. 45. Reginald wanted the name announced alongside the gender. Being told it's a girl and nothing else, he said, is like getting a menu with half the page torn off. He couldn't plan a gift without it. A name tells you whether you're shopping for a kid who sounds expensive. He put all this to the father at the party itself. Stretching the news out over months, he finished, is just poor planning by two people who should be more organized. 46. The email that landed in her sister's inbox was long and detailed. Its subject was how badly Monica had been let down by the baby being a boy. She'd already done the shopping. 2 designer outfits, cut to match, one for her and one for the niece she had fully counted on. Both useless now. So was the family Christmas picture she'd been arranging in her head for months. She wanted her sister to sit with what this pregnancy had cost her. Congratulations never came up. 47. A man tried to invoice a public park for landscaping after dumping 3 pounds of plastic glitter across it. Not the kind that breaks down either. The reveal happened in a protected area. A ranger told the family they'd be picking up every last piece by hand. The father argued. Glitter is basically nature, he said, and the squirrels would enjoy a livelier place to live. Then came the invoice idea. Sunlight hitting all that glitter made the grass look better than the park had ever managed on its own. 48. A citizen's arrest was announced at a high-end beach reveal, and the charge was psychological harm to fish. One guest filmed the couple on his phone while explaining it. Blue smoke had drifted out over the water. The fish underneath would look up, see blue where blue has no business being, and conclude the sky had fallen. Then mass panic through the whole underwater neighborhood. 10 minutes before that party, this man had never once thought about a fish. 49. In her mind, the baby had done this on purpose. She'd put $10 on the wrong gender in the party pool, lost, and decided 1 loss per afternoon was her limit. So she took the gift back, walked over to the pile, picked up the miniature baseball bats she'd carried in, and went out the front door while everybody was still celebrating. The parents stood there 1 present short, trying to work out what they had just watched happen. 50. Trudy asked the city council for a rule. Anyone planning a gender reveal should apply for a permit and sit through a public hearing, so every household within 3 blocks gets a say on the colors. What set her off was confetti. Pink scraps blew onto her sidewalk after a party down the street, and she read that as an attack on the historical look of the neighborhood. She also put a number on the damage. 5% off her property value, minimum, for as long as that weekend lasted. She timed the depreciation. Colored smoke, a cake, 30 minutes in somebody's backyard. That's all it takes to make a grown adult call the police. So here's the real question. Who was the single worst person in this whole video? Settle it in the comments. Drop a like and subscribe if this crowd horrified you.